Thank you, Chairman Langford. I am so pleased that today we're going to focus on a topic that's so important to my home state of North Dakota, the businesses that operate there, the tribes that operate there. And we heard that yesterday as Senator Langford and I sat through a hearing on the failure of the Department of Interior to move leasing applications and applications for rights-of-way along, costing really tribes millions of dollars in lost revenue because their resources have not been accessible to the private sector. And one of the issues has been, for us, this issue of flexibility and recruitment of a federal workforce. As many of you know, I've been fighting to address these challenges that have been faced by the federal workforce in the Bakken region of western North Dakota and eastern Montana since taking office in 2014. So this is a topic that I'm well familiar with. I think it's the reason why we're here, because of the frustrations that we had listening to some of the obstacles, even though intentions for both the agencies and for people in your roles in personnel, the intention is to do what's fair and equitable, but the rules somehow get in the way. So I think the Bakken region, although unique in our state, I think it serves as a prime example of the drastic impact that unique economic situations can have on local and regional employment markets. The energy boom has brought new jobs and opportunity, but it's also seen a spike in the cost of living. In fact, some would say skyrocketing. I like to say at the peak of the boom, the rent rates in Williston, North Dakota would make a New York landlord blush. The pay system just wasn't flexible enough to accommodate and remain competitive with the private sector. We would see public employees being hired only to be transitioned off by especially petroleum engineers, especially people who have expertise in managing a land and rights of way. Very difficult for them to hang on. Even if they had a desire to stay in the federal system, what we saw was the inability to do that and still feed their families. Working in close conjunction with the Office of Personnel Management, special pay rates became the most effective path forward for federal agencies in the Bakken. We were able to bring the director of the Office of Personnel and Management to North Dakota, and I'm pleased to say that nearly 500 federal employees across North Dakota were helped with special rate increases. That is a tribute. I want to do a shout out to the Department of Defense. I think both the Air Force and the Department of Defense saw the unique situation, and when we were in a room with civilian employees and I asked how many of them were veterans, over half raised their hand. And that's really the message of the civilian employees probably at every air base or every military base across the country. They're still in the mission. They may not be putting on the uniform every day, but they want to participate and to contribute to keeping this country safe. But they shouldn't have to pay an economic price to do that. I think there's a lot more work that can be done. I think there's a lot bigger discussion about flexibility, and that's what we hope to get at today, not rehash what we did, but talk about where we could have achieved more flexibility. One of the great concerns that I have, Ms. Jacksta, is obviously staffing the northern border. The remoteness along with inability to kind of recruit workforce, I think, suggests that we may not be doing everything that we can to keep all of our borders safe. And so I'm looking forward to a productive dialogue this morning on the best ways for the federal workforce to address the unique economic challenges, how we can improve the current pay flexibility system, and what we can do to make sure that our federal agencies have all the necessary tools at their disposal to keep federal workforce as vibrant as possible. We've had long discussions here about the future of the federal workforce and what that means in terms of the millennials. I think the lack of flexibility, putting a very dynamic workforce into a very static environment where there isn't a lot of flexibility is not a formula for success in recruiting the best and brightest. So this is clearly another issue that goes to the future of the federal workforce. And I want to thank my chairman, Chairman Langford, for agreeing to do this hearing and to working with us to address these federal workforce issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.